Yeah.
Forget the rest.
Are y'all feeling better?
You're rocking with the best radio station on the planet. SDM Live Unplugged.
What up? This is the Fourth Letter Radio. This is Rhythm Day Trois, and I'm here in Detroit with SDMLive.com. Do we need to make this go up a little higher? Let's come on with the test. There we go. Sounds good. Listen, guys, I am working on a doctorate. Oh, now I sound good. That sounds a lot better.
It does.
Yes, thank you. So let's do this again. Put that music on. I want to start over. SDMLive.com. There we go. This is the Fourth Letter Radio. My name is Rhythm Day Trois. We're coming from Detroit. With the Fourth Letter Radio at SDMLive.com every Saturday at 5 p.m. And I have a fantastic, wonderful, talented, intelligent, power mover, shaker in the house today in the 313 in Detroit. And it's really important that we talk about that this is happening in Detroit because we do have one of the largest metro areas and one of the largest areas full of Black people. So it's really important that we talk about the work that this lady is doing. And we're going to tie it into my doctorate program that I've been working on for 4 years. So I want to welcome my sister and my mentor, Karicia Carter.
Well, thank you. I'm so happy to be here, so excited, and thank you for all those accolades. I don't know how I can, stand up to that, but thank you so much for having me, and I'm happy to talk about the work that I'm doing.
Wonderful. So I'm going to pull my computer on over here so I can see, and we're going to get started. I don't get a chance, Karicia, to talk about my other life. So I've got a lot of different names, Some of them are, talk to me nice.
You're very dynamic, to say
talk to me nice. I've got my African friends who call me Mariama, and I've got my friends who know me in the corporate world that call me Gina, and then I got Rhythm Day Trois, and I got Day Trois. I got a lot of stuff going on, but a lot of people don't get an opportunity for me to actually talk about the dissertation that I've been working on over the last 4 years and the longitudinal work that I've been doing for, I would say, about 10 years.
Yes,
yeah.
I know you from the long haul. I have watched you grow, manifest things. You are such a dynamic, committed to your work, beautiful individual, and I'm very proud of you.
I feel like Africans right now be like, no, you, girl, you. I love that, but thank you. I love women, mature women who feel really comfortable in giving compliments, and even more so, women who can take compliments. Because that's really, I think, the problem, is that you can't receive a compliment, therefore you can't give a compliment.
Yeah, well, we're going to ice all that. I love you.
We're going to ice all of that out.
You're amazing.
Thank you. Let me just tell you one thing about this lady so you'll know exactly who we're working with. She works in the mental health field, and I'm working in the incarceration field as far as my dissertation. And we were talking about how we're cross-culturing there, because I don't really have anyone where it's touched me personally as far as when I was growing up. And I'm working on how young people and students are touched and impacted by parental incarceration, and how teachers can find strategies to boost their high school completion rate. So we're going to really get into the metrics and the research that I found to support my dissertation. But as far as mental health has hit my family really hard. And so this wonderful woman actually employed my son when I couldn't get anyone else to employ him, and she was just like, bring him in. So when you know people who you have willing and able, and I tell people to look for people who are willing and able, and you have people who are willing and they can't help you, and you have people who are able and they won't help you.
Very true.
Okay. So the people, when you are aligning yourself with the right people, they're willing and they're able. And so you want to align yourself. And, you know, especially when you're dealing with people who do not have to do anything.
Correct.
They're like, I don't have to do anything but stay black and die and pay these bills, right?
Right.
So let's get a little bit into who you are, why you're so dynamic, and how you got into the position that you're in, and your life's work, and how important it is to you. So just tell us a little bit about your position, and give us a backdrop on the facility that you're managing.
Okay. So once again, my name is Karicia Carter. I am the Director of Residential Development for Team Wellness. Team Wellness is the largest mental health organization in the state of Michigan. We service about currently 7,000 members. We're primarily located in Wayne County, which is the largest county, and we have several locations. So we have a clinic in Southgate, we have a clinic in Eastern Market, and then Mack and Mount Elliott. So the clinic that I oversee, or the facility that I oversee, is Team Jefferson. Team Jefferson is a new location to Team Wellness, and we provide mental health, substance abuse services, wraparound services, which is case management and employment, supported employment services, to males that are justice involved. So they can have contact with the justice system via diversion, so they are probation or their parole, but they have had contact with the criminal justice system within the last 6 months. So we provide housing for them in lieu of them being in jail, or we provide housing for the MDOC population for reentry services, and they are being released from prison to us to help them gain the resources they need to re-enter into the community. So I have been working on diversionary programs for the last, I would say, researching this for the last 8-9 years. I think 9 years now. Wow.
That's your career.
That's my life's
your
work.
passion.
My passion. And
amazing.
to be honest, you know, just like yourself, my son is who got me started in this work. He was a troubled youth. Even though we lived in the suburbs, and I worked my butt off to provide him with everything that he can possibly have, we still had adversity. We still had things that we had to overcome. He still had challenges that he came up against, and unfortunately got the best of him, and he ended up getting locked up. He spent pretty much all of his high school years incarcerated. So it was a challenge. But in that process, I learned how important it is for us to wrap ourselves around our youth and give them the resources they need, that unconditional type of love, to survive all the challenges that they're faced with.
I have so many questions.
Absolutely. I'm here.
So the institution, if you're a high school student, what type of institution can they put you in, and what is that like?
So he ended up being held at the in Oakland County at the Crossroads program. So Crossroads is a residential program for the youth, and basically it's group home style living. It's in treatment-based style living, where they incorporate mental health treatment into that and provide them with the counseling that they need to try to change their thinking. So he had to attend groups and individuals and things of that nature for the treatment side. So that was, and then they also had a boot camp type aspect to it, where it was some, the physical piece, where they, did a lot of physical exertion of energy, that type of thing, military type style.
Military style, okay. So that was the type of facility that he was in during high school. Did he finish high school?
He did. He ended up getting his GED.
Okay.
While he was there, and he graduated successfully from the program. So I ended up, it was still a challenge even after graduation, but he did not have any more contact with the criminal justice system. He was able to get a job. He's currently, prior to COVID, he was the sous chef at a restaurant down in Birmingham. He's worked his way up. He's a hard worker. He's surviving. He's actually doing very, very well. But it took me changing my whole lifestyle to provide him with the supports that he needed to survive that. And
what did you have to change? Because that really is a very fine line for me. When you have already given and sacrificed your life for your child, and then you're at the zero line, and they want to go in the opposite direction. So it's like you're reliving it. It's like Groundhog Day. We're starting over and over again.
But I promise you, I will start over and over again every day if that's what it takes for him. That
what kind of things did you have to change?
Everything. And it started early. Like my lifestyle change started when he was in kindergarten. A kindergarten teacher came out that day, one day at school, and was like, you have your hands full. And
do you think there was a learning disability there, or an ADHD or something that at that time? Because
there was ADHD.
I know during my years in high school, we didn't have any of those markers. I just don't recall them because I'm clearly would have been on the ADHD list. So I just thought I was double promoted in the 9th grade. So they were in Highland Park. They were going in the opposite direction. They were like, oh, you're smart. We're going to put you in this program. So I was double promoted. I was taking 11th grade classes in the 9th grade, and I graduated high school 6 months early.
I think that, back in our day, they just seen things differently.
They did. And something changed.
Something happened. And maybe you could speak to that.
Let me look. Here and see what happened. I would say that probably white flight. So if I'm living in Highland Park, and at the end of my block is the headquarters for Daimler Chrysler, and the other end of at the second corner is a elementary school. At the next corner is the middle school, and on Woodward is the YMCA and the YWCA. So you literally have everything you need right there for the executives. And then I had the big stone, 5-bedroom house with the 2 fireplaces and the chute. We used to fly down the chute, the laundry chute with the pool table, and we just had everything. Now the teachers were A1 sauce. Like, we had the best education in Highland Park. But what happens with white flight as the white population moves out of an area, sometimes the teachers still stay because they're employed there. So some of that was lingering there. Some of that great teacher education and resources and all of that was still there. And it slowly started to dwindle over a 10 and 15 year period. After that, you can go over there. Thompson is closed. Barber, I think they may have just opened it back up. Highland Park High School is closed. So none of those. YMCA is now a shelter. And so is the YWCA a shelter. So, I mean, you can look over it just looking at urban studies, that area of a 10 to 30 year period of the decline. So that's definitely is caused by white flight. Because, I mean, why would you need to keep those resources there if the people that the resources were created for are no longer there, right?
Very true. That's economics.
So this is why, you get people on the show. But let's talk a little bit about my dissertation. I want to talk about what I found in the studies that I found. So 2.2 million adults were held in prison and in jail, and we actually have the highest incarceration rates in the world.
Wow.
Okay. Now, looking at that, this is what we do know. Not only do African American people do not do drugs more than any other group, They also don't sell drugs more than any other group. So this incarceration is a biased structure that is part of the, the penal system, the legal system, and it is hitting us really hard. So the most interesting part about this dissertation is where we found that 87% of those who have been incarcerated, their children, 80% of them, their children have a much higher risk of not completing high school. So what has happened is that we have these word constructs like foster kid, which encompasses a lot of different things. A foster kid could be, of course, you don't have parents that are alive, but you also could have parents that are alive that aren't involved. And then you've got a host of other things that could cause you to be a foster child. However, incarceration is a much bigger impact to the child. So this particular summary, what I'm asking them to do in the theory that I have is that if there is a much likelihood of your child to offend, then you're going to continue to offend. And the reason why we call you an offender is because you're offending the public. So you're going to continue to offend us through your children. Therefore, you are responsible and should be held accountable and should be providing restitution to us by staying in contact with your child. Because me, as a Title I teacher for 4 years, where out of 4 high schools, they were all giving me the ones that were hardest to reach. Because I would go in there, close the door, and we would start rapping. I would do fun things with them. And then through that, they would learn to start trusting me, and then I can get them to get their schoolwork done. But what I found was that I literally was just being a parent to them. And through that experience and through my study, is that it is not going to hurt anyone as much as they would like to punish incarcerated people. It would be in our best interest to let them stay in contact with their children, let them be held accountable. So what the dissertation leads to is this phone app that I've created that would allow the parent to stay in contact with their child and keep engaged with their high school work.
And that is amazing.
That's where we're trying to go here. And it's for as many people that would like to be biased and say, punish them, you're going to punish yourself if you do not let these people stay in contact with their children.
And I agree with that. I totally agree with that. And I can see how that, the progression of removing the parent and the void that it creates, not only for the child, but the resources that it takes to take care of the child, is just a domino effect for the children and the system. So
it's a domino effect, and it is a cycle, because what we're saying is that, for many of these young people, these students, they literally do not care about how we feel about their parent. Their parent can be in a box. They're still going to want to be in contact with their parent, particularly through those developmental years. So what I'm hoping to do with this dissertation and with the white paper, once it gets published, and some of the strategies from the qualitative study that we're going to do with the Title I students, teachers in Detroit, is to find out what those teaching strategies are. And I could even take some information from you, because what you were saying is that you had to make some changes, some strategic changes in making sure that your son lived through that. Now, the I want to say incarceration, is that the proper word for a high school student who had to go to that type of facility? What do they call that?
I don't recall the word incarceration. I'm not sure.
Okay, because I want to be, they keep changing the words on what to call them. We have offender, we have reentry, You've got so many, and then you want to be kind. You want to make sure that you're saying
Those aren't kind words.
They're not kind words. I want to know what the kind word is. What should we say?
Kind.
And then we know that everything, you know, eventually you'll get to a place where you have, they call it woke, but you'll realize that a lot of it is rigged because they're removing the men who would keep our environments safe. And provide. So you're removing the providers and the protectors from the environment, and they are. You would think that some people would say, okay, you know, my time that I spent, I needed to be there, but why? Because you're escaping an environment that wasn't healthy out here. Who is going to say that it was a better place?
It's not.
If it wasn't already a jungle for you out here. And that is the cycle. Yeah. Because you more than likely have been touched by all of this. And I think over the course of time with Michelle Alexander, who is a professor, I believe, at the University of Ohio or Ohio University. Michelle Alexander is one of the, her work cracked a lot of the codes. Her work, Michelle Alexander, her work changed laws for Obama when he changed the laws for juvenile offenders and getting life. So her work changed that. Okay. The quote that I told you about you know, African American men not selling or doing drugs more than other people, but being incarcerated more for the same crimes. Her work brought light to that. Okay. A lot of the work that she's done on all of the laws about the difference between crack cocaine and powder, and how you would get more time for powder, more time for crack. Her work changed those laws. Okay. Her work talked about the disproportionate amount of people who were, you know, in prison for marijuana as opposed to other crimes. Just the things that we were just accepting and the stigma that we were giving to people who were incarcerated, and our bias and that idea that, you know, these are bad people. And so the work that, like, when I came over and visited your facility, and I was like, dang, this is a bad mama jamma right here. She is all up in here with all these people. It was just a wonderful thing because how tall are you?
I am 5'3".
Okay, so she's 5'3", and let me tell you, this is a facility that houses men only.
Men only, and violent offenders.
Violent offenders, and how many beds does it have?
85.
It has 85 beds, and you have, I mean, she's got security all over the place. They coming in, opening the door. You good? I'm good. I'm good.
But you know, even though that is the environment, they will not disrespect me in any way, shape,
I never saw that. I was like, let me get closer to you. Come on, let's go. Where we going? She's taking me up the hill around. We saw the whole facility. You showed me how beautiful it was and all the different rooms and stuff. And but there wasn't anything really to worry about because they would come by to make sure that you were okay. You good, Miss Carter? You good? They were checking on you to make sure. Yeah, they didn't want anything, you know. And
that's because of the level of comfort that we give them. They know that I have their best interest in mind. Whatever it is that they are faced against, we're going to work through it as long as you're willing to work through it and you're willing to overcome what's been put in front of you. So I don't have any problems.
I thought that was wonderful. That's when I was like, well, she more of a boss than I am. Let me sit down. Where you want me to sit? I'm about to sit over here and
I love my guys.
And then you had like D12 up in there talking to them. So you got these programs where you bring local celebrities and national celebrities in to talk to them. You've got your reading group, and you actually were asking me to come over to bring my expertise so that they can do their construction program. Yeah. So you are just making sure that they have everything they need. So why? So you said 8 or 9 years. This happened to your son 8 or 9 years ago?
No. My son,
why did you start then?
My son is 25, but it's always been a passion for me.
Do you know why?
Because I wanted to make a difference in the system. I wanted to be that resource for those that didn't have a mother like me. And that's what they call me. They gravitate to me like I'm their mother, but I give them that level of unconditional love and acceptance that no matter what you've been through, what your walk of life, the mistakes that you made, you can rebound from those mistakes.
It's like hope. Hope is really powerful.
It is.
Because having hope, I mean, a lot of us have visions and we have dreams. You know, things come across your mind. You look at your current state and then you start having these visions of how things could be different. Whether you're trained or you've learned internally how to manifest your visions, you have to visualize yourself dressing the way that you want to dress. You have to make a visual of it and put yourself in that outfit. Put yourself in the car. You have to visualize yourself driving around and walking around in a white coat if you want to be a doctor. You have to visualize those things in order to manifest them. And so that hope is really powerful because if you put yourself in that person's shoes, it would be perhaps a land of the hopeless. And so you're giving them that hope. That is that chance, particularly for me in my life's work and how this is intertwining, is that I often, when I am in a teaching situation, it's like I'm carrying the burden of a lot of these teachers because of the 10-foot pole that they want to hold working with certain students.
Okay.
So these are students that more than likely are children of your tenants.
Okay.
And they want the best students. They want to be slick and sly and say little slick and sly things, you know. The Bluest Eye, I don't know if you've heard about that project that I think her name is Jane Arnold. She did the Bluest Eye project, and basically it was a project with mostly white children who had blue eyes, and she had a bunch of children come in that had brown eyes, and she treated them better so that the blue-eyed people could see what it feels like to be rejected at that age. And I think they were only in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. Okay. But she would say little things like, and I would experience this with other teachers and how they're interacting with students who have stigmas. So you got your blue-eyed children in the classroom, and you'll say, okay, you know, you have other students that don't have their pencil out, but you're going to point out this one. Bobby, why don't you have your pencil? Yeah, Bobby, because that's kids that don't have blue eyes, that's how they do. See, because you know I told you to get your pencil, but you're not going to talk to another student like that you like.
Right.
That favoritism. And that's that type of rejection that once you're hurt by someone that you adore or that you're infatuated and you trust, when you hear those types of things, that's where it triggers you. And someone can even say something to you and didn't even mean it in the way that she did years later. Yeah. And you're going to remember, and now you have blocks. So you just put another brick onto, okay, that's another person that's talking to me like that. Yeah. So Jane Elliott is her name, the Blue Eye Project. And so she had them all come in, and then she said, we're going to have this pizza party or whatever she said. But then as soon as the Blue Eye people came in, she's like, nope, hold on one second, we don't have enough chairs. They're looking in there and they see that they have chairs, because that's how they treat people.
Right.
And they're only like in the 4th grade. And so they're telling them to wait outside until some of the chairs are available. I know I've been treated like that.
Yeah. Unfortunately, yes, I can say so too.
So, and they're young and they're like getting heated, knocking, trying to get in. Like, why would you be treating me like this? And these are all white students.
Okay.
But, and she now is famous because what happened was, I think the day or two before that, Martin Luther King had died. And as a white woman, she decided that she had to do something. And if no one else was going to do anything, once Martin Luther King was killed, she said, this is what I'm going to do. And no one told her what to do. She just said, this is what I'm going to do with my class. And if you don't like it, you will find another teacher tomorrow. And she started doing that with her white students, showing them the difference on how you're treating the blue-eyed people versus the brown-eyed people.
Wow.
And it's amazing, particularly when you're in a peer setting, because from an education standpoint, you ever notice if you talk to someone when they're by themselves versus if you're talking to someone with the other students are around. So while you're talking to them, whether it's in a degrading way or whether it is in an uplifting way, they're doing this, looking around to see who can hear you. And to see who has also heard what you said. And they're more concerned about what the other people think and how they're going to react to how you just degraded me about never having my pencil out. Because the very first thing you're looking at, he doesn't have his pencil out either. Right. But you did it yesterday. But he did it yesterday. But then you also don't tie your shoes. So you're using all these biases, and it's just really important when you're in an environment and you have an opportunity, because even if you did a bad job, okay, and you had an opportunity to impact people who are vulnerable and they were like, okay, you're done, you got to go. That time that you spent, you can't take that back. Right. They're going to take that with them to the next place and to the next place and to the next place and to the next place. And so it's just important, and that's why I really enjoy and I appreciate knowing people who are in places of power and don't abuse their power, and they take the opportunity to, well, politically, we say, to be on the right side of history. So tell us a little bit about, I want to know more about the strategies that you're using over there as far as mental health, the programs, what are your metrics looking like, and how, if there were some agencies that wanted to step up and partner with you, how could someone out there assist you? Where are you at, and what do you need the public to know about the people that you're working with?
Okay, so our programming consists of, we have a daily schedule that consists of, we utilize evidence-based practices to change the thinking. So our journaling system is the Courage to Change. And so basically it identifies risk factors. So they're scored on their COMPASS scores or the COMPASS assessment in different areas. And so the curriculum lines up with their risk scores. So it could be criminal thinking, it could be substance abuse, it could be family or relationships, social values, things of that nature. And what we do is we focus on areas that they need to improve. We also look at it from a holistic standpoint as well. Do they need to reconnect with their family? So what does that look like, since we're speaking on children? What does that look like? So in their treatment plan, we will incorporate family therapy. We will want to connect with the children. So teen wellness, by us being such a large organization, we have many programs. We have a children's program for mental health. So if there's a family reunification need and the children they are additionally suffering from a mental health diagnosis, and they need help, they need counseling to bridge that gap. We do have the children's department, and we do have our therapy within our Jefferson clinic, and we try to bring them together. We try to tackle all aspects of what that individual needs, so it's complete. Because if we fix one part of the situation and we still have another part that's outstanding, that is no balance there. So,
do you recall a success story? Anyone that's ever come back or called you, or tell us about, or someone that has just really, I know we know a couple of people, but tell us about
we started really going full steam in May of 2019. So it's been about 375 individuals that's come through the program. And out of those numbers, I probably would say 10% did end up recidivating, which is, not a huge number. I want that number to be 0 because that's our matrix. Whether we're judged or evaluated based on whether or not they go back to prison or jail, whether or not they're successful in gaining employment, things of that nature, and getting permanent housing.
So do you see how the laws are changing since you've been in? So now on the federal side, they are eliminating that box that talks about you having a felony,
and that's
for
huge.
Federal employment.
That's huge.
They also are changing the laws for those who have been in for marijuana. So do they voice these types of things during group therapy? Because I can imagine being in a room full of people who have had to do some time for marijuana, and now we're having pot parties
right
on the corners.
So it's definitely huge. It's definitely progress. And they definitely see the changes that, the agencies that are advocating, the organizations that are advocating for justice reform, is making a difference. And I encourage, the organizations, you say, what do we need? We need more
advocacy to change the laws.
So we can do our part within our organization to help them with their mental health needs, their substance abuse, but it's far greater than that. It's the big picture of things requires boots on the ground and a voice to get a point across that change needs to happen. Because a lot of the laws are very unfair and very, biased. So I'm happy to see the change. Another change that was huge in Ann Arbor, they took the felony box off the housing applications.
Yeah, so it's just slowly changing.
It's slowly changing, and that's huge, because that, I would say right now, that's one of the hugest barriers is getting permanent housing.
Absolutely.
For individuals.
Is where someone is going to live, because I think right now they have that 100-foot where you can't be near a church, like if you, things like that. And also they have where you can't have public housing vouchers and things like that.
When they need them the most, because
they need them the most.
Just coming
out. It sounds so just strategic to me.
It is.
Because nowadays, most of the people that I know in my generation, they embrace their brothers and their sisters who have had to do time. It's a lot different than when I was younger, and it was like, ooh. But now it's like they're fully supporting them, because I think they kind of know that it was possibly unnecessary.
And then it's the volume. When you talk to, if I was to put 5 people here in the room, I would say 3 out of the 5 have been touched in some kind of way.
Right.
As far as somebody being incarcerated, if it wasn't themselves, it's somebody close to them.
I got in trouble as a substitute teacher. The students, how they're going to treat the substitute teacher. So I wasn't going, I was like, oh, y'all want me to show you I'm from 7 Mile? Okay, let me do something real quick. I need all the young men to stand up. I want you all to stand up. And I said, okay, I need 7 of you to sit down. And then the rest of you, just to let you know that 7 out of 10 are going to go to jail. And they were like, whoa, he going to jail. So they went home and told him, my teacher said I was going to jail, so I got in trouble. But my vice principal,
the assignment.
my vice principal, who knows about these students, they were like, nope, she was telling you right. That's how you need to be told these types of things. Because what I was trying to teach them, I think it was like earth science. And they really were just being out of control. And so I just wanted to hurt their feelings. Like, I'm going to hurt your feelings real quick. So let's talk about going to jail. Because that's what y'all about to do. I can tell right now how many of y'all about to have a problem. I know how many are going to be teenage mothers. Let's talk about that. I got the numbers right here. I can tell you because I said, I can't get in trouble if I use these numbers. And it was like, they didn't like the teacher. They didn't like their teacher and went and told on me. And I said, yeah, you need to tell your mama that you're going to jail too. Sometimes you ain't right. But I think that, do you think that if we were to have more training about what happens when you do things, you know, your circumstances, because I really do think that it is a surprise. Me, I was raised by a single dad, so I've got a host of all types of nice, lovely things that have happened, not being raised by my mom, and then not being told about, you know, certain things, and not, you know, having that type of guidance. But the issue about, you know, I'm riding in the car, somebody does something, and you are, what is that, when you're aiding and abetting because you were there. Just, there's so much, why aren't we explaining these things so that someone would even know, oh, that's what you're going to do? Okay, so this is what's going to happen if you do that.
That's why it's so important to have the parents in the home to have the real conversations. The
parents don't know. That's the cycle.
Well, yeah. But if they were in the home, would it make a difference?
It would make a difference, yeah. You have to have, I mean, that goes back to this whole war. It's like these numbers that I've uncovered are war statistics. Okay. So when you have this type of incarceration, this is the type of thing that you do when you're at war with people. Because of the trickle-down effects and the trees and the branches, the devastation and the branches, and not having those people in the home. Then when you compare it consistently in this particular society, in this culture, they consistently want to compare, you know, between the two groups that are here, or the several groups that are here, what their punishments are and how they're going to be different and how they're going to remain to be different. And as you can see, when you look at the media, they will show you a mass murderer eating a Burger King. And then, you know, someone who stole a pack of cigarettes getting choked out. Yeah. So it's just so important for us to put that fear, well, not for us, but for the media and for the society to put that fear in you. But it seems to me that it would be so easy for them to put a more biased person that wasn't of color in charge of this institution. And I think that it's just a magical, wonderful thing that you have someone who is so insightful, really calm, but I mean, you probably got a pistol on you, so because you know, calm people, you got to watch them because they do not. What I learned is that people who are really calm and who are really sure of themselves is because they already know. Yeah. And you should know better. So
I was a friend of mine described, and they said, you're like a squirrel. I said, like a squirrel? What is a squirrel? He said, back a squirrel up in the corner and see how they come out fighting. Like, you know, they go around, they get their nuts, but let something happen to that, like attack that squirrel, and they're vicious. Okay. So I mind my business. I do my thing. I handle my affairs, but I'm not.
But do not cross that line, because it's not happening.
It's not happening.
So we were also talking about, and it's just really lovely, and I promised everyone that we would really open up the microphone to more intellectuals, promising people who could teach us some things and inspire us and give us hope. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the camaraderie amongst the intellectuals that we were talking about, because I've had some people on the show and I call them the panelists of scientists, but you had touched on some things on how important it is for women in power to acknowledge each other. You know, just kind of tell us a little bit about how important that is.
I mean, for me, it's encouraging. I get gratification, or I get strength when I'm able to give strength. It's a transfer of power, as far as I see it.
Interesting.
So, you know, when I'm able to bring somebody up and give, and actually, I don't even mind bringing them up to the point where they excel past me, because I'm good within myself. I know what I need to do to get where I need to go. So, you know, whatever I can do to transfer that energy of strength is my daily walk. And that's for, you know, it doesn't have to be women. It's whomever comes across my path, because we need it. If I can get what I give every day, I'll be bad.
Don't you wish you're like, man, if I could just get another person that's more like me, we would get some things done.
Absolutely done.
And that is just amazing. I do know, I mean, there's so many different conversations that go on, but, you know, they call it the 10%, the top of the pyramid, all these different things. I'm able to really spot on with women who are in that realm of not only maturity, but being an intellectual and having that compassion, is when, let's say, you miss a phone call, or you couldn't show up for something, or you can't be somewhere that they want you to be. What I found is, like, for some women, they get so offended by you not being a follower of whatever movement that they've got going on, and being offended, as opposed to, you do recognize that, you know, I got my own stuff going on, and it just wouldn't make a whole lot of sense for me to start following what you got going on.
I can understand being a supporter.
Yeah.
You know, I try to support my sisters. I try to support movements. I try to support as much as I can. But in my own world of self-care, I have to know my limits. Because I'm such a giver, you know, I find myself giving myself to the point where now I have depleted what I need to do what I need to do. So
It's resiliency.
Absolutely, resiliency.
And we use that a lot in academia. Resiliency is amazing, and I'm wondering, how can we build it? Because what I feel is that people who are not resilient are the ones that don't really understand that you're resilient. They can't spot it. They can't spot the strength.
Yeah, I mean, it's a level to it, if that makes any sense.
It's a level to resiliency. So let's just make sure that we define the word resiliency. So being resilient is like a rock on a ocean shore. You know, that you're getting pounded by the waves. And or a coal being turned into a diamond. Is it you born with it? What is it? Something that you learn to be resilient? What?
You're born with it.
Okay.
Because that's a trait. That's a core character, in my opinion.
Okay.
But it's learned as well. It's developed.
It's developed. Good. Let me take. Resiliency is developed.
It's developed because it's the
So I can teach someone to be resilient.
No.
They have to teach themselves.
Are
they going to model? They're going to model the behavior?
They can model.
They can watch you.
They can watch how you demonstrate resilience.
Okay.
But
I can't teach them. They're going to learn that, and they're going to model the behavior. They're going to see you go through something. Watch your reaction. See how it didn't phase you.
Hope.
You put that hope in there.
Hope they could do, come out the same.
Okay.
Because everybody's not going to come out the fire the same.
Are they going to come out the fire?
They may not. Might not happen.
Well, I mean, I be stepping out that fire doing my Afro beats like.
But you're resilient.
I be like, oh, that's what y'all gonna do. You can't faze me. But what I learned when I was young, I went through a lot, and grew up in a sanctified church and had a situation where I kind of had the church against me because I was a teenage mom, and the father was the son of the pastor. So that was like a big old scandal, girl. It was a big old scandal, and I was the culprit, you know, that little old me. But then I had this one lady, the oldest lady in the church came into the bathroom one time, and she said, girl, you better lift your head up. They're going to be lapping up behind you like cat to milk one day. And that's exactly how they are. And I'll never forget how she lifted me up. And what they didn't know was, like, my daddy had more money than everybody in the church, you know. So what they didn't know is that even though I didn't have the culture that they were looking for, I still had a really much bigger support system than any of those people had, and I became, you know, much more successful than any of them. It didn't define you. Yeah, and I didn't see that, but that was me running around trying to find, because what we found in our research is that people do need to associate with a group. That's part of Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and right there in the middle, love and belongingness. So you have to associate with the group. And what they don't tell you at the bottom is the basic needs, and the basic needs are the food and the shelter. So they give you your food card and your housing. And then the second one is safe and secure. So, you know, you got your police and the ambulance. But the third one is love and belongingness, and that's where they stop, because the fourth one is self-esteem. And what they forget to tell you is that if they can keep making you feel excluded, you know, like you go to the job, no, you know, you're not part of this. You go to the college, no, you're not part of this. If they can keep doing that whole inclusion, exclusion, then you'll never gain self-esteem according to that model. Okay. And that's what everything, you know, the food stamp system is based on that. Our entire system is based on this model, but they left that out. So when I was getting my master's degree at Wayne State University, they made me take it out. And I was like, no, I'm not even going to finish this degree if y'all don't let me keep that in there, because I have proven that all of these systems in America have been based on a lie. Because when I went to Africa, you said that you needed to have basic needs to have self-esteem, but none of those kids have water. They don't have ambulance. You have a broke leg for months, okay? They don't have running water. They don't have food stamps. They don't have anything. Guess what? They're better people than the students here. They have self-esteem. They know that they want to be a doctor, and they have no shoes. So you can give us all the shoes, all the food stamps, all the ambulance that you want. But that doesn't make the people better people.
No, it comes from within. It starts from within. It's that self-love. That's
the self-love. What I did was I flipped the Abraham Maslow's model. And so when you flip it, it's more African. And what it is collective. So I have this, and now I believe when I first introduced it in a white paper, I think maybe back in 2010, have you ever seen this meme or this picture of all of the African children sitting in a circle with their feet touching? Have you ever seen something? Okay. So there is this proverb about a white European that was visiting Africa. And the children came running over to him, and, you know, like in where I go, they call this skin color Tubab. So they're like, Tubab, Tubab. So they're talking to the white man, and they want to get the candy. He doesn't have enough. So just like what people will do, he basically said, oh, so whoever runs the fastest, run over to the tree and run back. Whoever runs the fastest, I'll give you the candy. So they go all whisper and everything. They're like, okay, let's go. We're going to do the race. So they all line up, and they run over to the tree, and they run back, and just like 3 of them ended up with the candy. So then he gives the candy to them. So then what do you think they did with the candy?
Hopefully they shared it.
They shared it. They shared it. And they were like, bloop, bye, bloop. We got the candy.
Right.
But they still had to, take that candy and they had to chop it up into smaller pieces. And so that, we call that communalism versus individualism. Now over here, what would we do? We gonna open up the candy and be like,
all in their face.
all in somebody's face. And they teach you how to be a person who is really mostly concerned about their own wealth, their own happiness, and their own self. And so that model needs to be flipped, because over there, there are going to be some parts that say if none of us can have shoes, if all of us can't have shoes, then none of us will have shoes until you can give all of us shoes.
And that would be amazing.
Or I'll wear these shoes today and then you'll wear those shoes tomorrow. And it's a collective mind. They know about it. They put it in Star Trek. There is a particular episode of Star Trek for the Borgs. And there's these Borgs, and they have one mind with thousands and thousands and legions of people, but one mind. And so they know about it. But if they keep teaching us those basic needs, they need the ambulance, they need the food stamps, give them a housing voucher, you give them all these things, and then they're going to one day actualize and become this wonderful person. But what they did was they stopped right in the middle. And so the narrative, the propaganda, everything that we hear all the time is all about inclusion or exclusion. That's what racism is. Racism keeps you from self-actualizing. They know this to be true. So they actually built the model based on something that they know, but they just changed it.
Wow.
They changed it because you would have a much better life depending on other people than depending on the government. You just would. And what that would mean is if you're doing potatoes and I'm doing corn, then we would, right. But it would be like an equal barter. It would be an equal barter, okay? Right. But if you, basically what you do with people is whatever I can't do, then I want to make sure that I'm providing that for you, and whatever you can do, then I'm providing that for you. So like if I type and you can't type, then I'm typing. Right. Yeah. Right. And if you farm and I don't farm, then you're farming.
And that would be amazing.
That would be amazing. But what ends up happening is in our society, they have taken all of those hopes and dreams and ideas away from the Black male and not giving them any responsibility to have a vision. Because if you think about it, they're not responsible for anybody, not even themselves. And responsibility is what gives you the hope and the dream and the vision, because and the drive that you would need. So I would say definitely put more pressure on the tenants and your constituents. Pressure as far as being responsible. That's what that phone app. Yeah. I want to, because the culture that I subscribe to, the fathers are responsible for the children, not the mothers. We are for the fathers. The women are for the men, and the children are for the fathers. And so when you put that responsibility back on the fathers, now they have a drive. But if you look at our society, they're not responsible for their parents. The parents are in the old folks' home. They're not responsible for their women, because we can take care of ourselves, and they're not responsible for their children. And then they're not responsible for themselves. So they really don't have any drive at all to do anything.
And so that needs to be redeveloped and put back to the original format. That it needs to go back to how it should be.
And so for you, and in the setting that you're in, what can you tell us to give us more hope that the stigma and the bias when it comes to incarcerated individuals, and you would know more than anyone. Like I said, when I come over here, I say she is a bad mama jamma, because as many times as I said I can do just about any job, that would be one that I'm not even sure that I would be able to do.
I believe that if we start with forgiveness, if we're the offender, if we are the one that's been offended, that we extend forgiveness so that healing process can start, and their mind can open up to the possibility of change in a new beginning. You know, everybody, you know, it's not for us to judge or continue the punishment.
Right. That's where I'm at. Why are you punishing them when it comes to their kids?
Yeah, and
because that's going to punish us. They're going to be coming through your door and your windows and stealing your cars.
Everybody's being punished, but the offender. You know, the children are definitely suffering. You know,
yes, for sure. And they don't even have a word construct for these children. They talk about foster kids, and we don't foster them. So I don't know why they're called foster children. But there isn't a word for the ones that are being left behind by this monster that they've created in order to take our protectors and our providers off the street. That's the purpose, because it isn't helping anything. And you know, the prison industrial complex brings in so much money that I think that they are just not putting an eye on it, because they're like, shh, you know, don't talk about that. It's a business.
It's a business. So,
and how do you feel as though you're on the right side of history as a part of that business?
I feel like I'm helping reduce it from being a bit like I'm taking away I'm
the
not
power
of the business. Like I'm focusing on the people. So it's removing, I'm focusing on the product.
And you're humanizing them, bringing them, making them human again, so we can have that compassion.
They're not a product. They're not they're people.
They're people, and they're not products, and they need to know this.
Yes.
Well, Karicia Carter of Team Wellness, the director of a residential facility right there in Team Wellness, and we thank you so much for coming on to the show. Very much a mentor of mine. You give me much hope and inspiration. So I do thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. This has been a wonderful experience.
Good. Well, this is the fourth letter. My name is Rhythma Deitois, and we are on sdmlive.com, and we will see you next week.
Make a move, make it matter. Yeah. Forget the rest.
Are y'all feeling that?
You're rocking with the best radio station on the planet, SDM Live Unplugged.